Hey guys, welcome to this video. Don't forget, if you want to learn how to make money betting, I talk people globally, as I do most days. Don't forget, it's right underneath this video. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and if you want to, join at the most profitable UK betting academy, which is the one we run. This particular video I thought I would do because sometimes on some days the value on horse races is not massively ideal. You can sort of check around different sites. It might be there on William Hill, for example, but not on Betfair on that particular day. You know, if I pick the 7:45 at Southwell, for example, I get it on the exchange and I just glance at the odds. I mean, having a little look, there is some value, okay, particularly on this horse. So I think I'm going to take that and I'm going to go £35 each way. Okay, but there are other ways you can make money via value betting, and you can lock in and do various other things. Looking at the rest of the horses, of course, I can do this by eye very easily in a matter of moments, whereas a lot of people can't. But you'll learn that once you've done this so many times. I bet an awfully large amount of money. We could flick to the 6:14, have a little look. And then we'll move on to other sports where you can place bets. So I think on this race, again by eye, this horse is going to be quite ideal. I think I'll go. I will go to the same amount again, just because of the age of this account and the standing of it stake-wise. That bet is going to be decent as well. Okay, so we're really getting through it here a little bit. So it turns out the odds have changed reasonably well, which is great. Will that continue through the other races at this exact point in time? We will see. But like I said, we'll talk a little bit about other sports. I think, all right, fine, we'll go for a glance. I mean, I sometimes don't, like to really dig too deep. But, I've got a bit of time today. So we will see what we can get. If you've seen any of my other videos, you'll also notice there are various similar processes. And if you're wondering what I'm doing and you're not, you're scratching your head wondering what's going on, I'm just mentally comparing the odds very quickly and then taking bets where they're very likely to have value. If not, they definitely have value. And once you can do that, it removes the arduous process that most experience trying to do things like this, because some people, they don't like it. They don't like numbers. You don't really need to know anything about numbers to do this. It's just a matching game, to be honest. That's what's really great. So just check the last race, and then we will go on to something like golf and tennis and things like that. Star of Lady M. Will we have some value? Yes. I think just about there. I mean, it's almost there on Bat, perhaps, but no. We'll go for Star of Lady M, another bet. So at this point, I've bet about, £300 plus. I think I started with about 2,100 or so. So I should get decent value back on these overall, which is great. Nothing particularly I can see because the market hasn't shaped up very much. Now, lots of my members ask me, well, if there isn't a lot of money on the market, can you still do this? And the answer is absolutely. Absolutely, you can do this. You don't need a huge amount staked. You just need to, again, have trained your eye to see how the horses are pricing in. So I think that's it for Southwell. Let's have a look and talk about what we wanted to, particularly the tennis in this instance. Now, with tennis, it does help to wait until the market is shored up compared to horse racing. That's why it's good for us to get a contrast there. If you go onto any sports book, let's say actually Betfair Sportsbook, I wouldn't recommend comparing or placing bets if you're going to lay them and then backing them on the sportsbook, because it can be a bit, dodgy or it's noticeable at least for that site. But you can see the odds shaping up. 3 on a win for Carlos Alcaraz. Of course, if I bet £1, I get 3 back because it's 2-1 or 3 decimal. If I go to the winner, and again I can glance with the knowledge I have, you can see he's about 4 or 4.5 points. Okay, 0.4, 0.45 compared to this. So he's about 15% off from the win, which means the place is going to have to pay us 15% or more. Now, again, there's not an awful amount of money, which is why you've got so many gaps, but you can see how these guys are pricing it. And remember, with each ways on tennis, you'll get 1/3 of the odds, or in some cases, 1/2 of the odds. It just depends how far through the tournament you've gone. Now, at 1/3 of the odds, it's very unlikely that you're going to have any value. Okay, so you can shop around, you can look at other sites. It's not absolutely a given that that you will have 1 to 2 on another site at the same time. But you can see, for example, here, you do have it now. Only the win odds are slightly lower for some of the players. Okay, if you compare them, Jannik Sinner's a point lower here. Carlos Alcaraz slightly lower. Djokovic a bit lower. Medvedev, though, you can see is 15 here and 13. So that's why it's good to have a good range of sites to look at, because they will show you, a range of odds, and therefore you've got a bit of a choice. But if you go to the final now, you can see Medvedev is 8.8, which is a massive gap up from this. And that's probably because the market hasn't formed enough just yet. But if you took those odds of 14 and divided them by 2, you would get 7 to 1, which is 8 decimal. Now, if you look at reach the final, Medvedev is pricing it at 8.8. So if this drops any more, which it probably would comparative to this, then you'll start to see that there's cracks of value, and you can lay to lock in early and all sorts of things like that. Doing it earlier and sometimes doing it later provides better opportunity. But like I said, you want to find where the best odds are. I mean, if you go on something like Odds Checker, it's actually very, very easy to do this, because you just go to tennis. You would expect it to be on the top, but it's not. Let's get rid of that. Where are we? So it's not there. Okay. It'll be, actually, I may. Yes, I'm on the American site, because obviously we run betting services for the US and Canada. So I want Odds Checker UK, and I want to click this. And there we go. There's the tennis. Perhaps the Americans aren't too keen, although Jannik Sinner, I think, is American. Anyway, you can go to Men's US Open, and it will tell you a range of odds, where you can get them and things like that. And it's very easy to compare these by eye, because they do it like this. And it tells you the each way terms as well. Okay, you can see Medvedev is the same across the board, whereas some of the others are slightly higher in different places. Okay, so you can see that across the board here. You've got 4, 10 to 3, 3.5, and you want to compare that with the places paid. So this is a really, really good tool to use in that regard. You can see actually Carlos Alcaraz has the best deal, and this is very ideal. I believe you should have value there, or at least when the market shapes up. It's 11 to 5, 3.2 decimal, and 2 places on BetVictor. So probably the most ideal place to bet, and at value as well. Whereas some of these won't give that to you. Boyle Sports, you can actually see Djokovic 5 to 2 again. There's a good chance there you'll end up with value. And of course, you can lay it immediately to lock in gains. So once this has more money on it, you can see Alcaraz is being priced in at the same price as Boyle Sports. But if this lay ends up at like 2, then you could back a lot on Boyle, and you could hedge with Betfair again for locked-in gains. That is a good thing to do where you have a site that lacks horse racing value. You need to take advantage of what you can do on tennis rather than the horses. It's the same for the golf. You can do the same with golf, because a lot of these players, again, will have differing odds for top 5 to top 10. And we've got all kinds of easy calculators that will tell you whether there's value or not, particularly for these other sports. There's a good idea where you can to use your alternate sports like tennis and golf rather than your horse racing. Because on some days, like I had here, £300 plus a bet, if I average 12%, 13% margin, I should have made I should have got about 40 quid's EV on that, 35, 40 quid EV in those seconds I placed the bet. So we'll have to see where we end up. But, we are now bringing out a US service, if you're in the US and Canada, for EV. So yeah, I mean, there's a bit of insight on the range of sports you can use. And I'm sure over time you may see more. But don't forget, you can check on here as well for golf. You can look at the golf odds to find where all the players are, or you can use another service. But the point is, you need to understand where there's value. You need to bet accordingly. If you need to lay it, then you lay it. If you need to do it in a proportion with risk management, then you do that. But if you want to learn how to value bet for income, I've made tons of cash. I filmed it all on YouTube, live profits. Then just go ahead and go underneath. And I'll see you in the next one. See you there.